Good afternoon and welcome to the Bobby Moore Stand. My name is Gary. On today's show, has anyone seen Todibo? We don't know where he is. He could be anywhere. Going to have a quick look back at the weekend and ask a few questions about Lopetegui, really, and what we expect from now on. Before we go there, a little bit of channel news. Chris and I have been working on some new content. Been going down two different routes actually. Got about a backlog of about 30 different ideas. No idea, honestly. But the two that we're working on at the moment, Chris has taken one. This is about, we wanted to interview people, but we didn't want to do the usual thing of just getting ex-players on and hearing, I don't want to be unkind, I like listening to ex-players, but the same stories over and over again. We wanted to get people who have been attached to the club, inside the club, maybe people who've been in the youth team, who've been in the reserves or something like that, but have been around the first team players and the kind of and their characters, people who've got stories, the kind of stories you're not going to hear anywhere else. And so that's what we wanted to do. And Chris has struck gold with his first one. Going to be releasing it in the next couple of days. Chris is actually really good at interviewing people. It's kind of one of the things he does professionally. So look out for that. This is actually Nigel Khan's idea that I plagiarised because he made something like this a couple of summers ago on an audio podcast, and it's one of the best things I've listened to. Right, so look out for that. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to hear some stories that you probably wouldn't hear from anywhere else, like Harry Redknapp's squad on holiday in Tenerife. Right, so that's the first idea. The second idea is something I'm working on with two well-known people to you, and we're putting together. It's the first time they've actually collaborated on anything, and it's going to take a while, because this is going to take planning and filming and editing and everything. But it's going to be what comes out the other end is going to be a good product. I promise you, it's going to be right up your street. So that's the first two things that we're working on. We're moving forward gradually. Like I said at the beginning when I started this channel, I don't want this to take over people's lives. So this is the sort of stuff we're doing with our jobs. This ain't our job, and when it comes out, it's going to be worth it. So, please, if you could subscribe to the channel, that would help us a lot. We're aiming for 6,000 at the moment. If you don't want to miss out on any of this new content, please do that. And again, in the next couple of days, you'll see the first little cut, the first little episode of that new content with Chris's interview. Won't tell you who with. That can be a surprise. So on with the show. So first of all, Todibo, where is he? Why isn't he playing? Why isn't he in the first team yet? Why isn't he even getting on the pitch at the moment? Now, it was mentioned to me at the weekend, just before the game, that perhaps we're holding back. Maybe he's not impressed enough in training. Maybe he's not fit. Who knows what the problem is? I wish somebody had come out and actually clarified the situation, because at the moment it's very, very confusing. It could be something as simple as he ain't got enough fitness, he's not ready, or I don't know. It could be something really bad, like they don't think he's suitable for the Premier League. Who knows? It's a mystery. And the longer this mystery is left unsolved and we don't get any update on it, the longer people like me are going to be making up theories about what could be happening. Right? So I'd really like to hear what is going on, because he is the star signing of the summer. And he should be starting in defence ahead of Dinos Mavropanos. Because what we saw at the weekend was just not acceptable. He's cost us 3 goals so far this year. I know largely he's a good player, right? Largely he's a good player. And maybe one day he'll get these mistakes out of his game. I hope he does, because I really like him. But at the moment, he's got at least one mistake in him every single game. 3 goals in 4 games, and don't forget, did his best to concede another one against Palace, where he gave that ball away just outside his box. Don't forget that, right? The result of the weekend, I mean, I was so pleased with Danny Ings, and I was so pleased to see his post-match interview afterwards, where he came across as a really nice bloke, a really sort of genuine, down-to-earth bloke. And I love that, and I haven't really seen Danny Ings or seen him interviewed. Why would you have seen him interviewed much? Because he's barely played. But to see him get the winner in the last minute, first of all, that's a massive high. And secondly, hearing the crowd singing his name, that must have felt really good for him. And I know after that result, there was quite widespread actually, outrage about the selection. And I think the upset at the selection was justified, because I was upset at that as well. Be hypocritical to say otherwise. But then there was, the inevitable. Oh, Duran scored again, so let's pine after Duran. Now, look, we didn't get Duran. We didn't sign him. This is, to me, this isn't even about Duran. This is about twisting the knife and sort of saying, see, I told you it was a crappy window. It wasn't a crappy window. It was a complete rebuild job, which very few people could have done as well as we've done. We didn't quite get the striker we set out to get. We got a proven German international striker instead. Hardly the worst thing in the world. He's not yet had a go, but people have already decided that he's not up to scratch. And they've decided that Duran is the much better option, and arguably he would have been a great option could we sign him, right? He could turn out to be world class. He might not, but he could do. Things are looking good for him at the moment, aren't they? They're really taking an upturn at Villa. But to me, this is like, you want to get the attention of some attractive girl. You want her to go out with you, but she won't go out with you, but you keep kind of pining after her. She ain't going to go out with you. So why do you keep going on about her? Forget her. Put her in the past. Duran plays for Aston Villa. He's an Aston Villa player. He isn't coming to West Ham. He's never coming to West Ham. So why the bloody hell are we still talking about him? Do we have to do this every time he scores a goal? Isn't it boring? Who cares about Duran? Did you go on about, I don't know, who's the other geezer? The other geezer they got up front. You go on about him every time they scored a goal last year? No, you didn't. Because this is a narrative that's been established. People think that Duran should have been our player if only we'd have spent all the money that Villa demanded on him, and it's just unacceptable, right? We've got to give Fulkrug a chance. He is our player. He is a player in our squad, a proven player who's got to play in a team that suits him. It can't play, as we've seen a million times before, if we're going to line up a team, set up a team to use a player like Antonio, we can't put someone like Fulkrug in to do that, right? They're not interchangeable. They're completely different parts, right? Talking of Antonio, he should not be starting games anymore. For me, I think he's burnt his bridges a little bit. And again, I don't want to be unfair to the guy, but he's just flushed his... What's he got left at West Ham? A year? A season? Yeah, maybe, if he's lucky. Well, not if he's lucky. He has got a year left. He's out of contract next summer. We're not going to renew him again, are we? At least you wouldn't think so. He's 34 going on 35. You would have thought his best chance to get another contract would be at West Ham. And so he should be pulling out all the stops and not going on these jaunts around the world. Yeah. Oh, what right have we got not to say he can't play international football? Well, the right is he shouldn't be absolutely knackered and incapable of playing Premier League football when he gets back home. And that is the case. It was the case all last season as well. And yeah, he carries on doing it. He'll do the same in 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, whenever the next international break is. So frankly, the sympathy's run out as far as I'm concerned. He's got to just sit on the bench and be number 2, number 3, shut his mouth and stop moaning about it when it happens, and let Fulkrug, get used to playing in the first team, get used to the Premier League, and start knocking some goals in. As for Danny Ings, I hope he does well as well. I hope he really picks it up. I've seen a worrying report in one of the news articles today saying that we're looking to cut our losses on both Danny Ings and Antonio in January, and that might be the case. It might be the case. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me because we tried to move Danny Ings on last month as well. But as it stands at the moment, I think I'd rather keep Danny Ings. And you know what it's like? It's like I hope David Moyes goes to manage Everton because I never want him coming back to here again. And that's why I hope we do sell Antonio, because it solves a problem. We're never going to see him starting a game for West Ham again. I'd rather see Danny Ings start a game. You see what I mean? So yeah, for me, it's as black and white as that. And the same goes for Souček. Souček was a complete waste of time the other day. Not his fault because he was put up front. He ain't a striker. He ain't a midfielder you can pass the ball to, who is expected to, actually receive the ball and pass it to someone else. He can't do that, especially when he's under pressure. He's all the opposition needs to do with Souček is shut him down, and he's going to get it wrong, just like he did in the lead up to their goal the other day. Every opposition team knows it now. All they need to do is get in his face. They've known it for probably 2.5, 3 seasons. I think Brentford were the first team to figure it out. And since then, every team has done it. Every single team. So yeah, I'm not. I don't want to see Antonio starting a game again. I most definitely don't want to see Souček playing in an advanced attacking midfield or striker role when we've got other players on the bench like Soler and Paqueta. Stop it. It's just wrong. It's just completely wrong. It's insulting. So as far as Julian Lopetegui goes, he's on game 4. You know, we shouldn't be too excited really at the moment, but that is the nature of the beast. You know, as I've covered already. People moan and bitch about Duran, how we should have got Duran. They'll moan and bitch about how we should have got Amarim because that's what everybody wanted. Well, look, if you could have everything you wanted, you know, you can't. Life don't work like that, does it? Unless you support Liverpool or, you know, maybe Arsenal or something like that. Then you can just ask for the best of the best and it's going to turn up. We support West Ham. We support West Ham. What we've got is actually a proven manager who has done pretty well so far in the scheme of things based on results. He's got 4 points out of 12, but the 2 that he lost at home were against Villa and Man City, two Champions League teams, and the reigning champions, who, let's be honest, were Haaland was amazing that day. And Villa, for me, it was a game too early. So what worried me, I think, was I thought he'd done that experiment to death already. I thought he would know that Antonio was knackered when he came back off those long haul flights. Fact is, it took him a half to figure it out. I hope he learns from his mistakes and don't repeat those mistakes. That's all I'm saying, because all we saw in the last few seasons was Moyes repeating the same stuff over and over again to the point where it became predictable. Don't want it to become predictable. I want it to be a new West Ham. And really, the time to judge as to whether it's a new West Ham or not is not after 4 games, it's after maybe 10, maybe 12. People were actually calling him to get fired. Fired? What planet are you from? What planet are you on? You know, people coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, I told you he was shit. Well, what did you expect to do? People were actually saying before this season kicked off that you have to give him, we might not get any points hardly for the first 5 games. Can you imagine? Look at what it's like after winning one and drawing one and only losing 2 and winning the League Cup, right? So he's basically won 2 out of 5 and drawn 1 if you count the League Cup, right? Can you imagine the meltdown, the universal meltdown, had he lost 5? Had we be sitting at the bottom with no points, like people suggested might happen? I never thought he would, but can you imagine what reaction that'd be? I think Lopetegui knows that. He must know that. He must know that. You know, listen, I wouldn't settle for that either. To be fair, it would be terrible. But we're not in that situation. It just feels like, from what some people are saying, that we are in that situation, but we're not. Give the guy a chance, for Christ's sake. I mean, again, if he picks Souček and Antonio against Chelsea, yeah, I'm going to have the ump as well. There's no 2 ways about it. I do think, though, that he tends to play a little bit more, how can I say, cautiously away from home. And we've had 2 away games so far and we got 4 points out of 6. I know we got the last kick of the game on Saturday. But cautious on the road, at least in the first half, seems to have worked so far, if you want to judge it that way. But I don't judge it that way personally. I just don't want to see that bloody selection. All right, so let's hope that he can turn that around, at least that part of it. It's going to be interesting to see who he picks going into Chelsea, isn't it, at the weekend. I'm looking forward to that one, actually. And I think the one thing you can take from these games so far is there, maybe apart from Villa, no, there was a bit of Villa as well that was quite enjoyable. It was just the way we were playing. We were recklessly so far up the pitch at times against Villa. But then you look at Palace, that was an enjoyable game from end to end to watch. You look at the City game, the second half was really good. You look at the Fulham game, the second half was really good. The one that was a bit crap, I think, was Bournemouth in the League Cup, but that's a means to an end. So I think there's always something of interest in these games. There's always something to watch. And I don't think we had that last year. I know we didn't, because it was boring. I am looking forward to going to these games still because, frankly, I don't know who he's going to pick, how he's going to play. And he does use substitutes to change the game. We've seen it over and over again. Arguably, all of our points have come from him using substitutes to change the game. That's a massive step in the right direction. And if people want to compare him with Moyes, consider all of the attributes, not just, oh, he's a bit, sideways move. We're not creating chances. We know that, right? Hopefully, it will come once he gets Fulkrug embedded into the team and Somerville and people like that. But there are other elements as well. Look at how courteous he is with the media, right? Compared to Moyes. Look at how how much sort of apparent fun and laughter and happiness there is in the camp, and the fact that he looks after all of the players. Compare that to Moyes, where they're always outcasts, people not getting a kick. Right? There are so many different attributes that he's got to his game. Not before we even talk about his tactical approach, which is different. It is different. I'd say it's not creating as many chances as I hoped it would, but you got to say that he lives and breathes every single game. Look at him; he's like a raging bull on the sideline, and he kicks every ball, and he makes changes during a game to affect that game, and that's something very new. So I welcome that, but we've got to finally dispel, put to bed this myth that he is Moyes and he's just going to carry on picking the same players and everything else, because I don't believe it, even though sometimes it seems it, right? So that's me done. That's me done. I'm actually quite upbeat, even though I don't seem it. I'm quite upbeat going into this week, and yeah, I've got a feeling we're going to turn Chelsea over, but we'll talk about that later in the week. Anyway, that's my my Monday roundup. By the way, going back to what I said earlier, new content coming soon. If you want to see that content, please subscribe to the channel, the Bobby Moore Stand on YouTube. Hit the bell notification icon, and please give this video a like. That helps us massively. Thank you all, and I will see you soon. Come on, you irons.